At 36,000 feet below the ocean surface, where the pressure can crush a car like a soda can, we found something that shouldn't exist. And when I show you what it is, you'll understand why NASA has been studying the ocean floor more than outer space. But first, you need to understand just how alien the deep ocean really is. Main content. Here's something that will blow your mind. We know more about the surface of Mars than we do about our own ocean floor. 95% of Earth's oceans remain completely unexplored. Think about that for a moment. 95%. We've mapped every crater on the Moon, sent rovers to Mars, photographed distant galaxies billions of light years away. But right here, on our own planet, beneath the waves that cover 71% of Earth's surface, lies a world more mysterious and alien than anything we've found in outer space. The Mariana Trench, the deepest point on Earth, descends nearly 7 miles down into darkness. That's deeper than Mount Everest, is tall. If you took the highest mountain on Earth and dropped it into the Mariana Trench, the peak would still be over a mile underwater. Let that sink in. The sheer scale of the ocean's depths is almost incomprehensible to the human mind. At those depths, the pressure is 1,000 times stronger than at sea level. Every square inch of surface area experiences 16,000 pounds of pressure. To put that in perspective, it's like having 50 jumbo jets stacked on top of your thumb. The human body would be crushed instantly. Even our most advanced submarines can barely withstand it. Metal groans, hulls compress, and the slightest weakness becomes catastrophic. Only 3 manned missions have ever reached the bottom of the Mariana Trench. 3. In all of human history, more people have walked on the Moon than have descended to the deepest part of our ocean. And what they found down there changed everything we thought we knew about life on Earth. Because in that eternal darkness, where no sunlight has penetrated for millions of years, where the cold is just above freezing, where the pressure should make life impossible, we found ecosystems thriving in ways that defy every rule of biology we've established. Let me take you on a journey into the abyss. Let me show you the creatures that live where nothing should survive. Let me reveal the mysteries that have scientists questioning everything they thought they understood about life itself. The deep ocean is divided into zones, each one more extreme than the last. The sunlight zone, where we swim and surf, extends down only about 600 feet. Below that begins the twilight zone, where light starts to fade and the water temperature drops dramatically. This is where things start to get weird. But we're going much deeper than that. Below 3,000 feet, we enter the midnight zone. Here, sunlight cannot reach. The darkness is absolute, complete, total. The only light comes from the creatures themselves, glowing with bioluminescence, creating an underwater light show that looks like something from a science fiction movie. Fish with teeth like needles. Squid with eyes the size of dinner plates. Jellyfish that pulse with electric blue light. At 6,000 feet, we reach the abyssal zone. The abyss. Even the name sounds terrifying. Here, the temperature hovers just above freezing. The pressure is crushing. Food is scarce. Yet life persists. Strange, alien life. Creatures that have evolved in complete isolation from the surface world, developing adaptations so bizarre they seem designed by a fevered imagination. And below that, the Hadal Zone, named after Hades, the ancient Greek underworld. This is the deep ocean trenches, the very bottom of the ocean, the most extreme environment on Earth. And this is where our story truly begins. In 1960, 2 men climbed into a bathyscaphe called the Trieste. Jacques Picard and Don Walsh were about to attempt something no human had ever done before. They were going to descend to the deepest point in the ocean, to the bottom of the Mariana Trench, to a place called Challenger Deep. The descent took nearly 5 hours. 5 hours of slowly sinking through absolute darkness, the hull creaking and groaning under the increasing pressure, not knowing if the vessel would hold or if they would be crushed at any moment. The temperature inside the cramped sphere dropped to near freezing. They could see nothing outside except the occasional flash of bioluminescent creatures drifting past their tiny window. At 35,800 feet, they touched bottom. They were deeper than any human had ever been, 7 miles beneath the surface. The pressure was 8 tons per square inch. And when they looked out their window into the silt stirred up by their landing, they saw something impossible. A fish, a flatfish, something like a flounder, lying on the ocean floor at the deepest point on Earth. This wasn't supposed to be possible. At these depths, at these pressures, vertebrate life shouldn't exist. The scientific consensus was clear, and yet there it was, proof that life finds a way even in the most extreme conditions imaginable. But that was just the beginning. In 2012, filmmaker James Cameron made a solo dive to Challenger Deep in a specially designed submersible. He spent 3 hours on the ocean floor, filming and collecting samples. What he captured on camera stunned the scientific community. Not only were there fish, there were entire ecosystems. Amphipods, shrimp-like creatures, some as large as a human hand. Sea cucumbers. Strange, undulating organisms that didn't fit into any known category. The bottom of the ocean wasn't a barren wasteland. It was teeming with life. But the most shocking discovery came from the samples themselves. When scientists analyzed the tissues of creatures collected from Challenger Deep, they found something disturbing: pollution. Specifically, persistent organic pollutants, or POPs. These are man-made chemicals that were banned decades ago but persist in the environment. DDT, PCBs, industrial waste. Even at the most remote, deepest point on Earth, unreachable by sunlight, untouched by human presence, our pollution had arrived. Chemicals produced thousands of miles away, on the surface, had somehow made their way down 7 miles to contaminate the most extreme ecosystem on the planet. But that's not the mystery I want to tell you about today. What I want to tell you about is what else was found down there. Something that scientists still can't fully explain. Something that has changed our understanding of what's possible in Earth's oceans. In the sediment samples collected from the Mariana Trench, scientists found microbes, bacteria, but not just any bacteria. These microorganisms were completely unknown to science. Their DNA didn't match anything in our databases. They seemed to belong to entirely new branches of the tree of life. And stranger still, these microbes weren't just surviving. They were thriving. They had developed metabolic processes never before seen in biology. Some of them consumed sulfur compounds in ways that generated energy without any oxygen or sunlight. Others seemed to break down hydrocarbons, chemicals we thought were toxic to all life. But here's where it gets really interesting. Some of these microbes bore striking similarities to extremophiles found in the most unlikely places on Earth. Microbes living in volcanic vents. Microbes found miles underground in solid rock. Microbes discovered in the radioactive cooling pools of nuclear reactors, and microbes that match genetic signatures of organisms found in ice cores from Antarctica, frozen for millions of years. What does this mean? Scientists have developed a theory, and it's one that sounds like science fiction. These deep ocean organisms might be some of the oldest life forms on Earth. They might represent the original life, the first organisms that evolved billions of years ago when Earth was a very different planet. Back when our atmosphere had no oxygen. Back when the surface was bombarded by radiation and meteor strikes. Back when the only safe place for life to develop was deep underwater, protected from the hostile surface. These creatures in the Mariana Trench might be living fossils, unchanged for billions of years, surviving in an environment so stable and isolated that evolution barely touched them. But there's another possibility, one that's even more intriguing. What if these organisms aren't from Earth at all? Stay with me here. This isn't conspiracy theory nonsense. This is actual scientific hypothesis called panspermia. The idea is that life didn't originate on Earth, but was delivered here from space, perhaps on asteroids or comets that crashed into our early oceans. And here's why the deep ocean is so important to this theory. When an asteroid strikes Earth, it releases tremendous energy. The impact site becomes a hellish inferno, but the oceans absorb that impact. Deep underwater, protected by miles of water, organisms could survive. If an asteroid carried microbial life from another world, the deep ocean would be the perfect place for it to take hold and begin colonizing Earth. Sound far-fetched? Consider this. We've found amino acids, the building blocks of life, on meteorites. We've discovered organic compounds in interstellar space. We know that extremophiles can survive in the vacuum of space when protected inside rock. The idea that life could travel between worlds isn't as crazy as it sounds. And the deep ocean trenches, isolated from the surface world, operating under conditions similar to early Earth, could be harboring evidence of our extraterrestrial origins. But let's go even deeper into the mystery. In 2014, an expedition using robotic submarines explored a different trench, the Puerto Rico Trench in the Atlantic Ocean. At nearly 28,000 feet, it's not quite as deep as the Mariana Trench, but it revealed something equally baffling. The robots discovered massive underwater structures, not natural formations, but organized, geometric patterns carved into the rock, perfectly straight lines, right angles, circular depressions arranged in regular intervals. Now, before you jump to conclusions about ancient civilizations or aliens, there's a natural explanation. These are likely caused by underwater currents and sediment deposition over millions of years. Geological processes can create patterns that look artificial. But here's what's strange. When they brought up rock samples from these structures, they found them covered in a biofilm, a living layer of microorganisms that seemed to be actively maintaining the patterns, as if the bacteria were somehow organizing themselves to preserve these shapes. This behavior, collective organization at the microscopic level, suggests a level of complexity we don't normally associate with simple bacteria. It's almost like they're building something, like they have some form of coordinated purpose. And this brings us to one of the most profound questions in deep ocean research. How intelligent can life become in the complete absence of light, in isolation from the surface world, under crushing pressure, over millions of years? We tend to think of intelligence as something that requires brains, nervous systems, consciousness as we understand it. But intelligence might be much broader than that. It might manifest in ways we don't recognize. Take, for example, the strange sounds recorded in the deep ocean. For decades, submarine operators and oceanographers have reported hearing unusual sounds emanating from the deep. Not whale songs or the clicks of dolphins. Something else. Something unidentifiable. In 1997, hydrophones in the Pacific Ocean picked up an extremely loud, ultra-low frequency sound. It was so powerful, It was detected by sensors over 3,000 miles apart. They called it the bloop. The bloop was consistent with the sound profile of a living creature. But no known animal could produce a sound that loud. It would have to be many times larger than a blue whale, the biggest animal we know of. Some speculated it could be an unknown species of giant squid or some undiscovered leviathan lurking in the deep. Later analysis suggested it might have been the sound of ice calving from an Antarctic glacier, which can create similar acoustic signatures. But not everyone is convinced. And the bloop is just one of many mysterious sounds that continue to be recorded in the ocean depths. There's the upsweep, a continuous sound that's been ongoing for decades, rising in frequency like someone slowly turning a dial. There's Julia, a sound so strange it doesn't match any known natural or artificial source. And there are dozens of others, cataloged but unexplained, suggesting that something down there is generating acoustics we don't understand. Could these be forms of communication? Could there be something in the deep ocean that's trying to signal, to reach out, to make its presence known? The deep ocean is an acoustic environment unlike anywhere else on Earth. Sound travels faster and farther in water than in air. Creatures have evolved to use sound for navigation, hunting, and communication over vast distances. In the absolute darkness of the abyss, sound is everything. What if there are organisms down there, perhaps covering vast areas of the ocean floor, connected through chemical or electrical signals, communicating in ways we can't detect, forming a kind of distributed intelligence? This isn't pure speculation. We've discovered bacterial colonies that act collectively, sharing information, coordinating behavior across large areas. We found slime molds that can solve mazes and make complex decisions without having a brain. Intelligence doesn't require neurons. It can emerge from simpler systems organizing themselves. Now let me tell you about something even stranger. In the deepest trenches, where the pressure is highest, where conditions are most extreme, we've found organisms with abilities that seem to violate the laws of physics as we understand them. There are bacteria that can survive temperatures above the boiling point of water. They live in hydrothermal vents, where superheated water, over 700 degrees Fahrenheit, spews from cracks in the ocean floor. At these temperatures, proteins should denature, cells should disintegrate, life should be impossible. And yet these thermophiles not only survive, they require these extreme temperatures to live. There are organisms that can withstand radiation levels that would kill humans instantly. They've been found living inside nuclear reactors, thriving in environments filled with gamma radiation. There are microbes that can survive being frozen to near absolute zero, then thawed out and continue living as if nothing happened. They've essentially perfected suspended animation. And deep in the ocean, we've found organisms that don't age. They don't die from old age. They can theoretically live forever, unless killed by predation or environmental catastrophe. True biological immortality. These discoveries are forcing us to completely reconsider what life is, what it requires, and what its limits might be. If life can survive these extremes on Earth, in our ocean depths, what does that mean for the possibility of life elsewhere in the universe? Saturn's moon Enceladus has a liquid ocean beneath its icy surface. We've detected water plumes shooting out from cracks in the ice. If life can exist in Earth's deep ocean, it could exist in Enceladus's ocean. Jupiter's moon Europa has twice as much water as all of Earth's oceans combined, buried under a thick ice shell. Robotic missions are being planned to drill through that ice and explore what lies beneath. If we find life there, it will likely resemble what we've found in our own deep ocean trenches. Even Mars, which seems barren on the surface, might have liquid water deep underground, subsurface oceans, protected environments where microbial life could persist. The deep ocean of Earth has become our laboratory for understanding alien life. Every creature we discover there, every adaptation to extreme conditions, expands our definition of what's possible. It tells us that life is hardy, persistent, and far more creative than we ever imagined. But there's one more mystery I need to tell you about. One that brings everything together. In 2020, during a deep ocean expedition off the coast of Australia, researchers discovered something that still hasn't been fully explained. They were exploring an underwater canyon, a chasm that dropped steeply from the continental shelf down into the abyssal plain. At about 15,000 feet, their robotic submarine's cameras picked up something unusual. A structure, massive and symmetrical, rising from the ocean floor like a tower. At first, they thought it might be a volcanic formation, a seamount, or lava pillar. But as they got closer, they realized it was too regular, too organized. It had surfaces that were too smooth, edges that were too defined. The structure was roughly 200 feet tall and covered entirely in the same biofilm they'd found in other deep trenches. That living layer of microorganisms. But here, the biofilm was different. It was glowing, pulsing with bioluminescent light in patterns that seemed almost rhythmic. They collected samples. They mapped the structure with sonar. They took hours of video footage. And when they brought everything back to the laboratory for analysis, they discovered something shocking. The structure wasn't rock. It wasn't volcanic. It was biological. It was made of layer upon layer of calcium carbonate deposits, the same material that forms coral reefs and seashells. But there was no coral down there, no mollusks, no organism they could identify that could have built this. The best hypothesis scientists have developed is that this is some kind of microbial construction, that billions of microorganisms, over perhaps thousands or even millions of years, have been collectively depositing material, building this tower, for reasons we don't understand. But why? What purpose could it serve? Microbes don't build monuments. They don't create art. They respond to environmental pressures, to chemical gradients, to the presence of food and energy sources. Unless they're more organized than we think. Unless there's some form of collective purpose. Unless they're doing something we don't have the framework to understand. The structure is being studied intensively. More expeditions are planned. Scientists want to know if there are others like it. They want to understand the biofilm, to decode its patterns, to determine if those pulses of light carry information. Because if they do, if there's communication happening, if there's coordination across these massive structures in the deep ocean, then we're looking at something that challenges our entire understanding of life and intelligence. We might not be alone on this planet. Not in the way we usually think about it. There might be forms of intelligence in Earth's oceans that we've never recognized because they're so different from us, so alien in their nature, that we've been looking right past them. The ocean covers 71% of our planet. It has a volume of 332 million cubic miles. It contains 97% of Earth's water. It's the largest biome on the planet, and we've explored less than 5% of it. Imagine what else is down there. Imagine what we haven't found yet. There could be creatures the size of cities, so slow-moving and long-lived that we've mistaken them for geological formations. There could be ecosystems connected across thousands of miles through chemical signals traveling through the water. There could be organisms that have been alive since before human civilization began. And there could be things that are intelligent in ways we don't recognize, thinking thoughts we can't imagine, living lives completely alien to our surface world experience. The deep ocean is Earth's final frontier. It's more remote, more dangerous, more difficult to explore than space. But it's also potentially more important, because understanding the life in our oceans, understanding how organisms adapt to extremes, understanding how ecosystems function in isolation, doesn't just tell us about Earth. It tells us about the potential for life throughout the entire universe. Every extremophile we discover expands the habitable zone around other stars. Every survival mechanism we uncover suggests new places to look for alien life. Every strange organism in the deep ocean is a proof of concept that life can exist in ways we never predicted. And beyond the scientific implications, there's something deeply humbling about the deep ocean. It reminds us how little we know. It reminds us that our planet still holds secrets, still has places we've never seen, still has discoveries that will change everything we think we understand. We've been surface dwellers for our entire existence as a species. We've looked up at the stars and dreamed of traveling to other worlds. But maybe we should be looking down. Maybe the greatest mysteries, the most profound discoveries, the most alien life in our universe isn't light years away. Maybe it's right here, beneath the waves, in the dark depths of our own planet's oceans. So the next time you stand at the edge of the ocean, looking out at the horizon, remember that beneath those waves lies a world as strange and mysterious as any science fiction. A world where the rules are different, where life takes forms that defy imagination, where mysteries wait in the darkness, 7 miles down, under crushing pressure, in eternal night. And remember that we've barely begun to explore it, that every expedition brings new discoveries, that every dive reveals creatures and ecosystems we never knew existed. The deep ocean is calling. It's been there all along, patient, ancient, full of secrets. And as we develop better technology, as we build submersibles that can go deeper and stay longer, as we send more robots into the abyss, we're finally beginning to answer that call. What we'll find there, no one knows, but I can promise you this: it will be strange, it will be beautiful, and it will change everything. The ocean's darkest depths hold answers to questions we haven't even thought to ask yet. And somewhere down there, in the cold and the pressure and the absolute darkness, life continues, thriving against all odds, waiting for us to find it. This is just the beginning. The mystery of the deep ocean is one that will occupy humanity for centuries to come. Every answer leads to 10 new questions. Every discovery opens new avenues of research. And that structure they found off the coast of Australia? They're going back next year with a manned submersible. Scientists want to see it with their own eyes. They want to touch it. They want to understand it. Maybe they'll find answers. Maybe they'll find more questions. But one thing is certain: the deep ocean will never stop surprising us. It will never stop revealing how little we know about our own planet. The abyss is vast. The abyss is ancient. The abyss is alive in ways we're only beginning to understand. And the abyss is waiting.